Welcome to the Autistic Culture Podcast Advocacy Edition. In these episodes, we tackle the issues that matter most to autistic people.
Each week, we share our insights and the experiences of our guests on how to live authentically and thrive as autistics.
I'm Dr. Angela Kingdon, the linguistic autistic.
And I'm Matt Lowry, licensed psychological practitioner. Let's dive into strategies for living your best, most authentically autistic life. Episode 120, Profound Autism, Giftedness, and Substance Abuse, the Autistic Triptych. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Matt. It almost sounds like someone's in your home today. Who could that be, Matt?
Oh, yeah. This is spring break, and my little guy is here, and he is playing on his tablet. And I believe you're playing Mickey Duplo. Is that what you're playing? Oh, he wants to be part of the show. He wants to hear the other people talking.
The other people are talking only in your ears.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. Well, this is going to be a fun episode because we usually don't have an off-camera third guest, but too important of a topic to not record today. So we were like, hey, let's invite Emmett to the show. Usually his appearances are reserved only for our paying subscribers because he does like to time keep our meetings.
He does. He's fascinated with time and the passage thereof. So
yes.
He's going to be reminding us that I need to go to the eye doctor today and get my wonky eye fixed after the surgery. And then we were going to go to Trail House. And then we are going to hang up more Art Galaxy pictures.
Yes, I have seen your art galaxy. We'll have to put a link in the show notes. Some people have art galleries, but you guys like to aim higher over at Big Clock House.
Exactly. This is the way. And but that's this is a big thing because we are when this airs, we will be in Autism Month. Autism awareness, autism acceptance, autism
April. Yay.
Yeah. So I do this group, Autistic Connections. And it's on Facebook, and there's lots of really, really good people in there. And sometimes things pop up, and I posted this thing a while back about not ASD, not level 1, 2, 3, not profound autism. And there was a bit of a pushback on that. So there are some people who are like, I want to know more about profound autism. And the Kentucky whatever
Kaka? Kaka? Is that what you're referencing? The Kentucky Council on Autism?
Yeah, that they the governor recently announced Profound Autism Day because Families for Effective Autism Treatment FEAT decided that was going to be a thing because they profit heavily off of ABA.
Right.
And so
but it's not just that. Like people get diagnosed with that. People's kids get diagnosed with that. They are told that they're not autism experts. Autism isn't their special interest. They go to a doctor who they trust and they say, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Your poor child has profound autism.
No, they don't. Profound autism is not a clinical term.
It's not?
It's not. No, we have level 1, 2, and 3.
Right. So this is technically level 3, but people
it would be level 3. But again, the ABA industry, in order to counteract the number of autistic advocates out there who are able to speak for ourselves, is pushing the label profound autism to have a distinct label that they say ABA can fix, because when autistic advocates say, no, ABA is bad, they say, well, that's not real autism. Profound autism is the real autism.
That's the real autism.
And that it's more profitable. So it's not a clinical label. It's not a diagnosis by any means. It is this unofficial thing that is promoted by ABA promoters to say that Yes, autism moms of America. And when I say autism moms, I mean the neurotypical people who say, autism stole my poor baby from me. Oh, why won't the autism go away?
Yes, but if only my child were psychic and could cure medical conditions on
Seriously.
a fictitious hill in the sky, then it would all be worth it to have
Yeah,
this child who is profoundly damaged to the
exactly.
outside world. But to the inside world, he's speaking to God and
Yeah.
identifying cancer.
And it's like that damn Sia movie. Because
Mm.
we really we should do a live stream sometime with us just bashing on music, because I think that it would be cathartic, and it's a terrible movie by an autistic woman about autism. But God, it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so the
Okay,
more that
Kaka declares Profound Autism
yeah.
Day, and the Autism Moms of America somehow get RFK basically elected to some supreme post.
Yeah, because he's anti-vax, and that he wants to sell that vaccines cause autism, which there was only one study, the Wakefield study, and Wakefield only had like 11 people in it.
11 people,
And
4 were girls. It was completely discredited in
yeah,
every possible way.
yeah, because he himself wanted to sell something other than vaccines. He wanted to sell I can't remember what it was, but it was snake oil. So no relevance whatsoever has ever been had to this. It was always a scam. But again, what people don't understand is that when it comes to the autism, we just have the autism. You might have some comorbid characteristics with other stuff. For instance, like profound autism might have, some intellectual disability,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't change the nature of the autism. It just changes the operating system that you're working with. It changes the hardware that you're working with.
I was going to say, I
So
feel like the operating system is the same. It's your
yeah,
meat
yeah,
body that has different co-occurring conditions,
exactly,
which could be speech language pathology needs. Like
exactly.
you could have, you talked about intellectual disabilities. You could have some of the GI or autoimmune conditions
Yeah,
that are just different one or what's your, I always get this wrong. Is it 14 different kinds of Ehlers-Danlos?
I believe 13, but
Yeah, there's
I have no
some
doubt that
number.
there's mystery EDS lurking out there.
Right. And so you could have some of the more intense EDS conditions or more
Exactly.
intense allergies but the autism is the autism.
The autism is the autism. It is the hyperconnected brain. It is the genetic underpinning that changes everything about us. It's just that there's different expressions of it. So therefore, that's why we're doing this episode that ranges from the intellectual disability that turns into profound, that people look at and say it's profound autism. We will look at giftedness and the disabilities that come with giftedness in autism, and then the high rate of substance abuse and why that happens for autistic people. Because again, the autism is the autism, and it's all the other stuff. The we It's not just one thing. The levels are largely meaningless. They exist from a capitalistic perspective as to how well you're able to fit into a traditional work setting and generate capital for other people.
Yeah, it's like,
So
can you pretend to be neurotypical or not? If
yeah,
you are what they would consider, let's say, level 3 or profound, you won't be very good at pretending to be neurotypical. Therefore, how much money could you make society if you
exactly.
think about it?
And that's the
Right?
thing. Yeah,
So, like, here we are again with eugenics. Like, if you are not valuable in a capitalist model, watch out.
exactly. And this is I I'm very frustrated by all of this. As an autistic person that has dealt with this kind of stuff, because I was in gifted and talented classes. I graduated and I went to UK and I studied things, and I but at the same time I have great limitations because I can't be around a lot of people for a long time before I fall apart, but we'll get to that in the second part. And my son is a Gestalt language processor, which means that he understands a lot of stuff, but he can't get the words out. and we rely a lot on Peppa Pig scripting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
so I have to do my white lady from the Lost Generation spiel on
of course.
HSP here.
Oh God, yeah. HSP, Indigo Children, the psychic,
Right, the Psychic Friends Network on the
Yeah.
hill. But like, somebody requested a telepathy tapes episode, but
Yeah.
like,
Oh
I would
God.
need to maybe become a drug addict first to be able to do that episode.
Yeah, we need
But
to get lots of alcohol and just complain about shit.
yeah, exactly. So, and if you don't know what we're talking about, that's great. Don't look it up. Don't
Yeah.
Google it. And
Don't
if you
Google
do
it.
know what we're
It's
talking
good for your
about,
mental health.
yeah, Devin Price has a good Substack where he breaks it down, but or they break it down. But what I want to tell you about HSPs, that stands for highly sensitive people. It is a word like gifted, in my opinion, which is some sort of euphemism, which means I don't want to say gifted. I don't want to say autistic. I want you to think I'm some sort of special person. So you could be psychic. You could be an indigo child and talk to dead people. You can be highly sensitive. Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm highly sensitive, which, well,
Yeah.
I am. So, okay. You could be gifted, but God forbid the word just autistic with no qualifiers comes out of your mouth.
Exactly.
I don't know what happens. I think Zeus throws a bolt of lightning. Something must happen.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's
and high functioning. People have to tell me that too. They're like, "Oh, I loved your speech. I'm high functioning." I'm like,
because there's some
okay,
or the word Asperger's, because there's some level of elitism going on to say, "Oh, I'm not like those people."
It is sad about the autistic people. I have Asperger's, so
yeah, I've got the good autism. You have the bad autism, and that's the thing. It's none of that is it. It comes from really sore, butthurt egos.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I just had a flash of my dad. So my dad was born in 1941. He was left-handed.
Yeah.
And so the nuns at his Catholic school tied his hand behind his back. And if he would ever try and use his left hand, they would smack it with a ruler. Yeah. Eventually, my dad learned how to function with his right hand, as you would, because abuse.
Yeah.
It's just ABA.
You learn how to adapt.
But my dad, to this day, if you asked him, he would tell you he is ambidextrous.
Yeah.
He is ambidextrous. It is true.
It is technically
because they
true.
beat it into him.
Yeah.
Like, have you tried just suffering? And
yes.
So I think when he says I'm ambidextrous, some part of him, I don't know what the word for left-handed ableism is, but some part of him has like internalized left-handedness is the hand of the sinner or whatever, the sinister.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it literally is sinister because Latin is sinister means left. So it's just the word has gone through all these permutations and all this negative association because back in the day you wiped your ass with your left hand, and when you went to shake people's hands with your left hand, they said, "Oh my, that's your shit hand. Oh, you must be a bad person." That's one of the lefties. Sinister. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that's the thing, because we've stigmatized the A word. So everybody wants to, because again, ABA and Autism Speaks and everything has, if you haven't seen Autism Every Day, the quote unquote award-winning short film from Autism Speaks that's available out there. It talks about how terrible autism is, and how the vice president of Autism Speaks wanted to end her own life and that of her autistic child because she's so stressed out by her autistic child, but didn't, because she remembered she has a neurotypical child at home that needs her. And she tells the story while her autistic child plays in the background.
Right.
And it's just, but again, that's the thing, because this quote unquote profound autism is the type of autism where people have difficulty masking. And it's the type of autism where even the dullest of neurotypicals can pick up on it and say, "Oh yes, that's autism there." Yeah. Because kids, especially kids who have other comorbid difficulties, are unable to mask as well as adults. So they say, oh, that poor child, they have difficulty with, say, potty training, or they have difficulty with, other aspects of life. And they say, oh, that poor child, but without realizing children grow up.
Right.
Without realizing the children might be able to learn new skills and be fully functional people. But again, a lot of those kids are born to families who just say, well, we'll set our expectations very, very, very low. And then they don't learn those skills because the parents never teach them. The parents never give them the opportunity to do things on their own. The parents never allow them to branch out because, again, they become these helicopter parents that need to protect the poor autistic children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very frustrating from that standpoint, because that's what is sold to people to perpetuate the ABA industry. That's what's sold to people to perpetuate this, again, this Autism Acceptance Day, and Chuck E. Cheese saying, yes, we've partnered with the Autism Speaks, and we're going to give all of our profits to Autism Speaks on this day. And we're like, please don't. Please don't do that. It's terrible. Don't do that.
Chucky would not want that.
No. Well, I prefer Showbiz Pizza anyway, because I really think that the guy who created Showbiz Pizza was one of us. But Nolan Bushnell, who was like the head of Atari, who decided to do Chuck E. Cheese, was very much an opportunist. And he said, this is a thing that will earn us lots of money. Let's do this. But the guy who created Showbiz Pizza, if you want to see a good documentary, check out The Rockafire Explosion. It's a documentary about Showbiz Pizza and the Billy Bob band, The Rockafire Explosion, because that guy owns the rights to the Rockafire Explosion, and he's very, very protective of his robots.
I feel like this is some Kentucky thing. We don't have Showbiz Pizza on the East Coast. Connecticut, DC.
Yeah, at
Florida,
one point.
Maybe?
Well, at one point there were like 300 or 400 restaurants across the U.S., but right now there only remains one in West Virginia.
Ew! Oh my!
Yeah, and you can go see it on the way to Point Pleasant, and it's Billy Bob's Pizza Wonderland, and that's the last remaining Showbiz Pizza on Earth.
Wow. Okay.
But
so I have so much more to say on this topic, and I definitely want to get into addiction too, because it comes up a lot. But I feel like maybe we should jump to a break now.
Yes.
And come back and talk about some of the consequences of these like fake levels and euphemisms. Instead of just saying autistic, there are consequences, they're real, and we're going to talk about them after this break.
Exactly.
Have you ever wanted to know officially if you're autistic, but you don't want to deal with all the medical gatekeeping?
Adult Autism Home Assessment, or as I call it, AHA! Gives you a clear, autism-affirming, autistic-approved way to self-identify without the inconvenience of dealing with neurotypical, quote-unquote, professionals.
You can find out all about our book and get a free copy when you become a monthly, annual, or Autistic Guardian subscriber of the Autistic Culture Podcast. To find out more, just go to autisticculturepodcast.com/subscribe.
We are back, and we are covering the autistic triptych: profound autism, giftedness, and substance abuse.
All right, so why do you call this a triptych? How are these three ideas connected in your mind?
So this is again, the quote unquote profound autism is hardcore unmasked autism. It is hardcore burnout autism, because people of any age, of any quote unquote level, can hit this mark where it's really, really hard to function, where it's hard to get out of bed, where it's hard to change your routine, where you get really, really overwhelmed with everything, and you are quote unquote non-functional. But again, we have this sort of savant syndrome where, like Sherlock Holmes sort of autistic with giftedness, where you are like, yes, you can use your powers of perception to do wonderful, wonderful things that other people can't do, because it's such an amazing gift, and you're able to be highly sensitive, and you're able to be psychic and see things before they happen. And it
does feel psychic, because you're doing pattern matching so much faster than most brains.
Yeah, exactly.
That it just looks like, wait, how did you see that? But I
Yeah.
like it in a lot of the Sherlock Holmes where they'll show you like, oh, he saw that dirt. He knew that dirt had to be from this place. And he saw this pipe, and that pipe smoke only comes from this country. And they are real. They are very real clues that are not psychic. But
Yeah.
even I think if you're the one doing that bottom up processing, you don't even know what you're seeing all the time.
Exactly. And this is the thing that we call matrixing, where you sort of passively absorb a lot of ancillary stimuli, and you can pick up on noises and smells and all this stuff and come to a conclusion. And it is a term that I learned from ghost hunting, because let's say that you're in an old building and it's already spooky and you got this vibe, but you've also you're experiencing a lot of infrasound, which is very, very, very low level sound that gives you a sense of unease. And then you pick up on like stuff that's blowing from drafty walls and everything, and you say, oh man, this place must be haunted, because you're picking up on all this ancillary data and cobbling together a picture in your brain of what things are. But autistic people do the same thing, because we pick up on all this data and we say, well, this is probably going to happen because that has happened, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And this is why a lot of people want to say that the autistic children are psychic, because they have all these great gifts, and they just pick up on how other people feel, and they just pick up on all this amazing things. And
and then add to it if
Yeah.
your special interest is something religious.
Exactly.
Like if your special interest is Judaism, or your special interest is crystals, or your special interest is fortune telling,
Yeah.
then you really are like, there is some pattern to, I don't know, palm reading.
Yeah.
It's not my special interest, so I'm not going to pick up on it. But you could be an amazing palm reader. I'm sure there's a line that means long life and a line that means short life, whatever the hell the things are. Yeah. As an autistic person, you would see those patterns and you'd be amazing at it.
Well, it's like the show Psych, where they pretend to be psychics because they're very, very good at picking up on data from people, and they're good at doing cold readings.
Oh my God, I know not of this show, but I want to watch it.
Oh, yeah. It ran for many, many seasons on USA. We should probably do an episode about that.
That's amazing. Do you think they're mostly autistic people, or were they more like a skeptic society trying to like catch people?
It's essentially more or less con men, but doing it for good reasons. But that's the thing about. But this is the thing about like.
But I can also do a cold reading, so I get this, and I have had periods in my life where I actually like thought I must be psychic, because these things would happen. I'd be like, oh my God, I think I'm psychic, and then I realized, oh shit, I'm just pattern matching.
I've actually done that with kids in the middle school, because I have these Zener cards, the cards from like the beginning of Ghostbusters, where you have a circle and wavy lines and a plus sign and a square and a star. And they were developed in order to test ESP potential, where you say, hey, what card am I holding up? And it has a better guess rate because it's 1 in 5 of guessing, and if you get better than 1 in 5, then you might be psychic. But I would use it and show people, and I would have them I would show that I was quote unquote psychic because I'm able to read body language. And this is despite what is again a lot of quote unquote profound autism people have great difficulty reading body language. But if body language is your special interest and you have a special interest in psychology, it becomes a code to decode.
Right.
So I'm very, very good at looking at eyebrows and pupil dilation and movements and all this other stuff to say, hey, are you telling me the truth? Are you doing this? But only when I actively do it, because people can get one over on me if I'm not turned on and actively decoding. And again, this is the difference between, it's the same autism. It's just, am I using more brain power to get through the noise?
Right. Right.
But I am able to do the cold reading. One time I went to Scarefest. It is a horror slash paranormal convention in Lexington, where a lot of really famous people come, and it's really neat. I listened to like Lauren Coleman talk about Bigfoot. It was pretty cool. But there was a cold reading at the end of the night where this woman was walking around saying, I'm sensing that someone with a J or an L or a Q or was
An
in
M or
9/11.
an R. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
And
Or maybe it wasn't 9/11. It could have been an airplane accident or I'm seeing an airplane. I'm seeing a skyscraper. Somebody who knows someone with an older male figure, somebody who has an older male figure in their life with a skyscraper and an airplane, and it's an R or an M name. It's like Michael or Richard or Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Michael or Nikel or Heikel or Michael.
And eventually someone will be like, oh my God, my dad flies Cessnas. And once he visited a skyscraper when he was on vacation in New York City, and his name is Miguel.
Exactly.
This is incredible. How did you know?
And that's the thing about the human brain. We are built to look for patterns. This is the reason that, for instance, like, oh man, what is the term for seeing faces in things? Because schizophrenic people see a lot of faces in like walls and stuff because we are.
Is that why they do the Rorschach
yeah, exactly.
test?
Our brains are hardwired to look for patterns, and gifted people are very, very good at that, which is why we appear psychic. But we also are sort of obsessed with that. And this is because, again, it's a survival technique. We've learned that we have to look for patterns to survive. It's also a symptom of CPTSD because we have to anticipate all of the stuff for us to survive, because if we don't anticipate the needs of the people around us, they might hurt us.
Right. So, and again, this is saying you can, right? So now we're looking at like when people are so excited about how gifted they are. Yeah. It does feel pretty exciting that you can do all this pattern matching. So there is some human thing of wanting to like pat yourself on the back for being so amazing when other people can't do it. Yeah. It is sort of a mental gymnastics. And that leads to, I think, people really latching on to this gifted title. I think HSPs are maybe like less gifted and just more emo. I'm not sure.
And that's the thing, because when especially when you're young, you have enough energy and your meat body is working well enough to latch onto that and say, oh, I can do all of the things. But like we said last time, the long-term across the lifespan, the disability rate is 100%, assuming you live that long.
Right.
And once your meat body starts falling apart and you don't have the energy to do stuff, and you develop like POTS or mast cell or EDS or all that other stuff, you don't have the energy to constantly be on and constantly be masking all of the overstimulation that comes with this. Because when you're looking for patterns, you're picking up on all of this data, but you can't tune out the other data. The other data is also there. The loud noises, the smells, the textures, all of this stuff that's not related to anything that you're actively processing. Right. And all that stuff starts to take a toll after a while. And we also, it's one of the biggest things that I see when seeing adults, especially gifted adults, is that they learned in middle school, early as middle school or high school, that they have to pattern match their peers in order to be accepted. So if their peers are like, I like this band, you say, I also like this band. Thank you for mentioning it. I will go home and research everything to know about this band so I can have something to talk about this person. But it becomes easier once you find out that other people, neurotypicals, really, really like altered states. The altered states brought about by substances, by alcohol, by drugs, by anything. Because, again, they don't have the constant sensory overload that we do. So they like to have their senses messed up a little bit.
Right. I also think they like to connect through small talk. And if you've ever hung out with people who drink, It is just it's a hotbed for great small talk. I think if you're into small talk, because you do something funny, like, I don't know, accidentally trip, and then everyone laughs. And then for years they could say like, hey, remember that time you tripped? Wasn't that so funny? That was funny. I tripped once. Did you trip? Tripping is funny. I watched this video once where someone tripped, and and it's hours. They can do this for hours when they're drunk.
Yeah. And if you're the sober friend, God, it sucks. It hurts so bad.
God. I'm like, who needs a ride?
Yeah.
Maybe I can shuttle you back and forth to New York City.
Yeah. And this is why a lot of autistic people say, in order to tolerate this, I shall also be drunk. I shall also get high.
That's the only way. I wish I could get drunk or high when I'm in those situations. Like, I can't. It's not for me. Yeah. But it could be the only thing that could make it better.
Yeah.
It's very painful.
And that's the thing, because a lot of people learn that the key to socializing is to turn off your brain. Because our brains, given the hyper-connected stuff, we process way more data. And if we stop processing that data, all of a sudden we fit in. All of a sudden other people start to accept us because they say, oh, I thought you were a highly sensitive person. It turns out you're real, like me. And we could sit back and talk about people tripping. And yeah.
Ooh, can we talk about the sports ball too? That could make it extra fun.
And we also have a thing with relationships, because it's difficult for autistic people to find and maintain relationships and friendships, because we say, oh yes, are they thinking this about me? What are they doing? Are they compatible? Are they this? Are they this? But neurotypical people will say, hot, and then go and hook up. And a lot of autistic people are not part of the quote unquote hookup culture, because a lot of us are demisexual, or,
actually have to get to know a person to be attracted to them,
instead of just, go and, get laid. And it's easier if you're, drunk, to bypass all of your systems and all of the things in your head. I
want to get back on this because we're talking about drinking, but also when you brought up Sherlock. I feel like we have to come back to Sherlock and heroin.
Yeah, because Sherlock loved the heroin.
He loved the heroin.
I think he also loved cocaine.
I don't know, but I definitely know about the heroin because I think it was of the day. So maybe certain Sherlocks, but. And he had lots of, it's gotta, I think heroin at that time had a lot of rituals too. There were pretty boxes and things. I don't know what all the steps are. It's not one of my special interests, but I just think when you are processing all that information, when he would walk into a crime scene, I mean, he was chill. He had a cute hat. Like, he wasn't like flapping his arms. He wasn't doing any stimming to regulate his emotions. He just stood there. He was super chill, and he would start collecting all this data. It doesn't look taxing. Like, climbing a mountain looks taxing, but walking into a room and pointing out, oh, that boot print is facing east doesn't seem taxing. But I think then he would go home, and especially like when he's being rejected and other people are taking credit for his work, or people are doing something he knows is absolutely idiotic, or his family is treating him like shit. It's just so much to process. And then he had his friend heroin.
Yeah.
And it was
because it's always there for you.
Yeah. If you're like, many people, I think, live right on the edge of burnout, like for decades.
And this is a big reason why weed is a popular thing, and THC gummies and a lot of other stuff, because there's a lot of people who really can't get to sleep at night because of overthinking. They can't be silent, and can't deal with the noise inside their head, and can't deal with the rejection, deal with this person did this thing today, and this person said this thing to me, and this person said this thing, because when we get trapped in that, it feels like we're drowning.
Yeah.
And
like
if you're
rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria loop.
Exactly.
That is very similar to drowning. You just have to keep doing it over and over, and it seems like it'll never stop.
Yeah. and that becomes an escape for people. And this is one of the reasons why autistic people are underemployed, because uh, again, some of it is that there are legitimately people out there who have a lot of cognitive impairments and they can't do stuff. But other times it's due to intense depression, intense substance abuse that comes from that, which means that they are unable to keep a job because they, have difficulty with keep using substances, and it impairs a lot of stuff. It's also one of the contributing factors to our low life expectancy, because a lot of people die from substance abuse because they are rejected, because they are lonely. And it's this vicious cycle, this feedback loop of nobody likes me, so I'll drink, but I don't get around people, so nobody likes me, so I'll drink, etc. And it can be really, really tragic.
Now, do you think that's more likely if you are falling onto the gifted side of this triptych? And what's the alternative of if you're in the intellectually disabled side? Are you less likely to use substances?
Well, that's the thing about it, because adults who are intellectually disabled typically are under guardianship by some neurotypical guardian, and they're not allowed out of the house except to go to like day treatment or some stuff like that.
Camp,
so they don't have the opportunities for that. But gifted people can be consumed by all of the overthinking, and they do have the resources, and they say, that person is functional. What makes them function? They drink a lot. And like, one of the greatest examples of this is Dan Harmon, the guy who created Community, the guy who did Rick and Morty. If you watch the documentary Harmontown for free on YouTube, he's a functional alcoholic. And
now, to this day,
I think. Okay, so we'll give a little brief. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's save that for after the commercial break, and then we'll come into this, because it is a fantastic thing, and I want everybody to watch it. But we'll come back after a break. Hey, clinicians, are you looking for an affirming way to assess autism and ADHD that bridges the gap between self-identification and formal testing? NeuroPebble's diagnostic assessment training for master's level clinicians is here to help you confidently navigate assessments. This course prioritizes lived experience and understanding the nuances in the diversity of traits. You can even get 7 CEUs if you need them. Start today at bit.ly/neuropebble and take the first step towards transforming your practice. At NeuroPebble, every idea is a pebble that paves the path to a more neurodivergent, affirming world. Go to bit.ly/neuropebble to learn more. We are back and talking about quote-unquote profound autism, giftedness, and substance abuse. And my son is here joining us. He's very frustrated that I'm recording the show instead of watching the show.
Well, and especially frustrated because he can't hear me and all my witty insights. He's like, I just hear Dad. This is boring.
He wants to. He definitely wants to hear it and be a part of it. And if you want, you can come over here and look. But we can't. Yeah, well, we can't put it on the TV.
There is sadness, but yes.
But
we were talking about giftedness and substance abuse, and I feel like you have a Dan Harmon story for me.
So Harmontown is based on the Harmontown podcast, Dan Harmon's own podcast, where he talks about his own life, behind the scenes stuff. There was a period where he was working on Community. He had a relationship with who to me appears to be neurotypical. She's a vibrant redhead. If you watch the Harmon Quest show, where they play Dungeons and Dragons together, she gets a little odd. And they were not having a great time, and he became attracted to Megan Gans on Community, who later went on to do Mythic Quest and do a lot of other stuff. And he crossed some boundaries. he should not have crossed. He went on and apologized for all those boundaries. Megan Gann said, yeah, that's a good apology. I accept your apology. So, but at the same time, he was very, very overwhelmed with like life and all the responsibilities of being a quote unquote successful showrunner. So his alcohol usage amped up through the roof.
Wow.
And he was very, very non-functional on many days. He turned in scripts late. On Community, it was he oftentimes didn't get the scripts done until the day of shooting, and nobody knew what they were going to do until the day of, and it became a major problem. This is the reason why in Rick and Morty, Rick is a raging alcoholic. Due to his grief and everything, he turned to booze to try to settle this. And in Harmontown, it shows that Dan Harmon has a lot of executive functioning difficulties due to all this.
Wow.
And things have gotten better as of late. Number one, he attributes the fact that he gave a lot of responsibilities to other showrunners. Like for Rick and Morty, instead of being the one responsible for everything, he hired people to be responsible for stuff. So he outsources this. For Crapopolis, he has a showrunner. So he has his ideas, but a showrunner takes care of the day-to-day stuff. So he doesn't feel so stressed in dealing with all of these pressures. So and he's in a healthier relationship with I can't remember the name of the woman, but she did the show Dummy on, I believe it was Tubi. But yeah, but she's apparently, fairly, it's a fairly decent relationship from what they report. But there's when you take into account all these interpersonal dynamics, all the work dynamics, all the pressure, and again, he had no substance abuse. He went to therapy several times, but again, when you go to a neurotypical therapist and they say, have you tried not being depressed? He didn't get a lot out of it.
Right.
So this is the thing. The show or the movie Harmontown is a really good show of why that's a rough situation. And this reflects a lot of autistic people out there who feel very, very isolated, very, very depressed, very overwhelmed, and they're doing their best to hang in there no matter what.
Right. Right. And I think I was asking about on the other side with profound autism, that term, what it actually means is generally intellectually disabled or not able to mask.
Right. And this is
so
the thing about
if you're already there, if you're already like, well, you can't mask, you are less likely to need a substance to help you mask.
Right.
Because you're not doing that.
Yeah, and this is a big reason why neurotypicals are able to identify autism in quote-unquote low-functioning people easier. This is why adult autistic women don't get diagnosed until their 30s or 40s, because all throughout their life, they're able to handle the pressure, but the pressure builds and builds and builds until in your 30s and 40s, you're trying to handle a job and a kid or 2 kids or 3 kids and a house and a car and try to hold it all together. And then one day you wake up and you can't.
It no goes so good.
Yeah. And you stop masking. And that's when the neurotypicals are able to give you a diagnosis, because they say, oh, I see it now. Because
so if we changed the idea of levels. For, you know how you did your reframing DSM?
Yeah.
What if we just reframe levels? Does this work to levels of masking? Like level 1 means you either now or when you were young are able to cosplay as a neurotypical.
Yeah.
And then level 2 would be you are either now or when you were young sometimes able to cosplay as a neurotypical. And level 3 could be either now or when you were young, you've never been able to cosplay as a neurotypical.
I think that is way, way more accurate and a much more affirming way than the capitalistic level 1, 2, and 3 that they currently have in the DSM.
Right. Yeah. the euphemisms, I want to throw in one more and get your take on neurospicy.
Oh man.
You're not a fan either?
Yeah.
I'm not a
I am
neurospicy fan.
I am not a fan of that because again, I have met a lot of allistics who use the term neurospicy to say that, yes, I understand what you're going through because I myself am neurospicy. And I'm like, no, sir, you're just an asshole. And
Right.
that's I from autistic it's like an autistic in joke that other people don't get.
Mm.
Because if you say, yes, my brain is a little, it comes from mild autism denotes the possibility of spicy autism. So therefore, neurospicy is a result of that. But again, it's been appropriated by people who don't get it, and they just it.
I
Yeah,
think even people who get it, I mean, I see a lot of like the HSP
yeah,
types that like neurospicy because they don't want to say the word autism. I
right,
think it's like pleasantly plump.
yeah,
I think
exactly,
people really struggle. They do not struggle with short and tall. They're
yeah,
like, that person is tall, that person is short.
yeah,
And then maybe if it's you that's short and you're a guy, because I think this is a guy one that's hard. You're
yeah,
obviously not, well, it's not obvious because this is radio. I have met you in person. You
yeah,
are not short. You could see a picture of me and Matt together. You will see he is not short. But if you were, let's say, 5'4" and just as awesome as you are, you
yeah,
probably would have had to do some inner work to just say, I'm short on our
yeah,
podcast where no one could hear that.
yeah.
And I think that I know for me as a fat person, I've definitely had to do some inner work to identify, like, I can just say that word.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's the thing, because like going to the doctor and stuff, have you tried not being fat? It's like, well,
right,
the fat doesn't have anything to do with my eye.
right. Oh, no, but they will find a way.
Yeah,
So I think that is how the word, like, what, I mean, even overweight, but there's so many euphemisms for
yeah,
fat, none of which I can think now because I've trained myself into just saying I'm fat.
yeah,
And I feel like if you don't like the word autism and if you are conflating autism with the very narrow definition of what we thought was a childhood condition when doctors were diagnosing a very narrow segment of autistic people that were
yeah,
children that tended to have intellectual disabilities. I think that if you have that image of autism in your head, you'll come up with something like neurospicy. And it's just
yeah,
like, if you haven't come to terms with the fact that the BMI is made up and people have all different body sizes, you will come up with funky but chunky or large and in charge or some other like comedy term because you haven't fully processed the fact that bodies come in a variety of sizes, brains come in a variety of types,
yeah.
just like bodies come in a variety of heights and eyes come in a variety of colors.
And I think this is one thing that I have wondered for many, many years, because again, there's a lot of people who have it's intelligence and thought and everything is a very tricky thing for people, because again, observing things from the outside is one of those, you can definitely measure height, you can measure weight, you can measure eye color, you can, hair color and all these descriptors, but it's very, very hard for people to conceptualize their own thinking and the thinking of others. And then when you add ableism on top of that, it becomes a giant mess.
Yeah. Yeah. And internalized ableism on top
Yes,
of that,
yes.
which is
Yeah,
very confusing. It's very confusing. And we have so much trauma from all these conflated terms,
yeah,
which I think is why all these different labels and people lobbying for all these different labels to their governors or people in charge or whoever they're
yeah,
lobbying to for all these different words, why it's so important to like really understand what is autism
yeah.
and what are the co-occurring conditions.
Yeah, exactly. And This, while I'm thinking about it, the phrase broader autism phenotype
Oh no.
really bothers me. Because again, it's autism, but not real autism.
Right.
Because real autism is when, you can't, when you're a little baby and you can't do the things. But if you're an adult who has a job, then you can't speak for other people because it's broader. It's like autism light.
Yeah.
And again, it's not light on the inside. It's what other people expect and what other people see. And other people think that they have the ability to judge all the stuff that you're going through inside your own head.
Yeah. My dissertation advisor, who I really like, and she's super well meaning and she's very willing to learn, which I really appreciate about her. But she says some crazy ass shit
Oh, God.
that I know seems real to her because she says it like it's just like okay to say. But she will, this is like a little tiny phrase she has said to me multiple times. People with more autistic traits. And then it will be followed by something. So she'll be like, people with more autistic traits are more likely to stim. And I'm like, wait,
what
are you, I'm like, I don't think I know what these words mean. I'm like, I know things about autism, but a lot of times when you talk, I
Right.
feel like I must not actually be autistic. What does more autistic traits have? She actually, this was a real sentence. People with more autistic traits are more likely to be autistic. And I was like, what's happening here? What do you say? What's happening? I'm so confused. And then she's like, well, according to the phenotype, the broader phenotype, something. I'm like, I don't think that's good. I don't know what you're looking at, but I don't think that's good. Get away. Move away from the stove.
Because again, they don't want to take into account the masking. They don't want to take into account that there's stuff that they can't see. Because the people who promote this,
that was one of her findings. People, autistic people who identify as, she uses the term gender diverse, which, so I think she means like either trans or non-binary or gender non-conforming in some way. But she says people who are diagnosed with autism who are gender diverse have fewer autism traits. That was a real thing. And I had to tell her, don't you think that would be masking? Like if you take two diagnosed autistic people, one is gender nonconforming and one is cisgendered, and then you measure their autistic traits, it doesn't mean they're less autistic.
Right.
It means they're masking. I'm like, did you give them the cat cue?
Right.
Did you ask any masking questions? Did you have a trans person give them this fucking test?
Right.
How about that? What trans people were involved? What gender nonconforming people were involved? What did the person administering that? Yes, of course they demonstrated fewer autistic traits.
And this is a big thing because their quote unquote autistic traits are only stimming or self-harm or biting. It doesn't have anything to do with like interoception or echologia or bottom-up processing or all these other things that are associated with it. But because again,
she's like, no, but they're further on the spectrum. I'm like, that's not
how that works.
My friend. Yeah.
It's very, very frustrating that the gatekeepers want to believe that they can understand the autistic experience from the outside. Well, I mean, even the phrase gender diverse means that she doesn't understand, gender nonconformity from the outside. She doesn't understand what it's like to be trans or to be non-binary or to be, anything except for cisgender. And it's very, very frustrating that these are the people who are the gatekeepers and who control the research and control the expression of it. Because they just do not get it.
That and I think it is hard to get if you do not have lived experience. Because I really do believe she's a nice lady who's trying for the right reasons. But it's like, if someone always has to tell you, like someone always has to explain English culture to me. I get it. I live here. But I'm always a little on the outside, and I always have to listen to English people when they're like, "Oh, yeah, we used to have potato chips which they call crisps, that were hedgehog flavored." I'm like, wait, come again? Like, there's just things I don't know.
For some reason, I believe that exists.
That it does. They were called hedgehog crisps. This was a real thing. There were no hedgehogs used in the making of hedgehog crisps. They were made with pork flavoring, like pork crackling kind of thing. But
hence the hog.
Yeah, but they were used to, or they were flavored to try to simulate the taste of hedgehog cooked over an open barbecue by travelers. So Romani descendant travelers that like will kill or trap hedgehogs and eat them. They were
that makes me sad.
Yeah. Anyway, they got banned because it like encouraged hedgehog eating, I think. But none of this, like, I don't really understand Romani culture. I don't understand it from Romanis, and then I definitely don't understand it from English people either. And I don't really understand the 80s in England under Margaret Thatcher. I understand like Ronald Reagan. Like I've watched movies. I care about English people, but I do not have the lived experience of growing up in England in the 80s. And I never, ever try. I never try to tell English people what it was like for them growing up in the 80s. Never once. Doesn't even occur to me.
Yeah. When I talk about neurotypicalism, you can always spot the neurotypical when they get offended by it.
I know. That is one thing I love about my dissertation advisor. She never gets offended. Yeah. And she always asks me to tell her more. But then she keeps publishing things like more autistic traits in, non-gender diverse populations.
Yeah. This is why we drink.
This is why we drink. Back to giftedness. See, I'm just going to call myself gifted from now on. Fuck autism. I'm just gifted, and I'm going to be a gifted heroin user.
Yeah. Well, okay. So when I was teaching at UK, at the University of Kentucky, we had a unit on advertising, and I was talking about how advertising is the ultimate bond between art and psychology, because every bit of advertising is trying to persuade you to do something. And there's explicit advertising and implicit advertising. Explicit is, you should buy this product. It's fantastic. Implicit advertising is like the messages that they don't intend to send, but are there anyway. For instance, like I showed them the difference between back in the day. Do you remember the commercials for depression medication where there's this little bubble who was like in its room being depressed? But if you take like, what was it, Zoloft or something?
Yeah.
Then it comes out and it was able to party with the others, because you can't tell people that you're depressed. But if you take a pill, you won't be depressed anymore. But, you can't talk about mental health because mental health is bad. But then I showed them this other commercial where people were kayaking and hang gliding and biking through fields, and they all had herpes, and this is herpes medication.
Yeah.
And it's cool to have herpes, but it's not cool to be depressed. Wow. And it's this explicit versus implicit thing about all this, because your some stuff is okay to talk about. It's okay to talk about your heroin addiction, but it's not okay to say the lights are too bright, the sounds are too much, and I just want to be away from people, because that's for some reason bad.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It is just fascinating to watch. I know we did the internalized ableism episode a few weeks ago, but it's fascinating just to see how many ways it sneaks in there. And if you are listening, it would not surprise me if you, A, maybe still use the term Asperger's, B, maybe have used the term profound autism, C, really liked the term gifted when you heard it because somebody in Autistic Connections posted something. They're like, "Ooh, what about gifted? Can we use that word?" Or if you're an HSP, like I get the attraction to these things, and it's so hard to see the capitalism and ableism built into them, because the cost of seeing it is actually quite high. They do want you to play their game. There are benefits to agreeing and going along. Also, they will send you to a wellness camp, so don't get too fucking comfortable.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because the the whole gifted thing is, I was a gifted child in a gifted and talented program, and as an adult, there's a lot of hey, you could be doing so much more. Why aren't you doing more? Because gifted people should be doing all the things all the time. You should have a medical degree and a law degree, and also marathon on the weekends, because you have so much potential. And God, that's exhausting.
That is
the
exhausting.
whole thing is just very, very.
And what's the code in you have so much potential? Because there is a code under there.
Yeah, because you're not enough.
You could be making more money.
Yes.
You could be contributing more to the GDP of America. You could, like, potential for what?
And this is,
I have more potential to burn out faster. What is the potential for?
This is the whole thing with he who shall not be named, talking about how he's a quote unquote genius, and there is a quote unquote parasite class, because he's able to do all these things and be the CEO of many, many companies, all of which have products that are blowing up or falling apart, or the car is just
killing people.
Yeah. But he is a genius, but the parasite class is the one that's ruining America. Instead of just saying, hey, maybe you're subpar about many things and you need to take a step back and look at yourself and, realize that maybe you're rampant, not genocide, eugenics, perhaps is not working in your favor, sir.
Yeah. Very interesting to see when he gets thrown under the bus. It's kind of interesting. I do think money will protect him.
Yeah.
That is his bet. And I think he figured that out on some subconscious level, because I know I did. It wasn't exactly with money, but the way that I kept friends was I was super useful. Yeah. So I would always organize the parties or throw them at my house, or my mom was always mad at me for this, but I would always buy everything. Yeah. I always bought people lots of shit. Even if I didn't have money, I would bring candy, or I would buy the alcohol, even though I didn't drink, or like I would drive people and I would never charge for gas money. That is how I got people to like me. And I think Elon's doing that on a grand scale. He's like, oh, try and get rid of me now. I'm the richest man on earth, motherfuckers. Yeah. But they will still ditch you. They still ditched me. Or they would say shit to me. This still happens. Like, can we be friends but not tell anyone?
Right. And that has happened to me in relationships. I've settled for being useful instead of being lovable. And it's that's a thing that I have to work through, because I want to be lovable. I want to have someone to say, yes, I accept you, even though you've got wonky eyes and need to have all sorts of interesting
and kidney stones and shit that needs to get removed and blasted. Appendixes just going rogue inside your meat body.
Yeah, that I won't be abandoned the minute that I'm not useful. And I
think you see that struggle in the extreme in Elon. And I think a lot of times with the gifted term, when people are attaching to that, they're like, I am useful, I am valuable. And if that is you, useful to what and to whom for what?
Exactly.
Who is measuring
this? Who's exploiting you, and why are you sucking it up?
Yep.
But so it's the eternal
what do you
struggle.
What do you do when this just happened to me yesterday. I was at a speaking event. Somebody came up to me afterwards and they're like, oh, your speech was amazing. My son has profound autism and we're really struggling now. So I feel like somebody told them, I started saying this at the beginning, but somebody told them, maybe it wasn't a doctor, but somebody gave them that term. They didn't just make it up out of nowhere. Something made them feel like their kid has profound autism. That clicked with them when they heard it.
Yeah.
I don't think standing outside a venue, I'm going to convince them their kid doesn't have profound autism.
Right.
So what I did was I was like, oh, what is he into? What does he love? And she was like, number plates. He loves number plates. I'm like, oh, like license plates in the UK. I'm like, amazing. Is it the colors or the patterns, or does he line them up? What does he do with it? And I just brush past the, like, they've got the vocabulary word wrong. I'm not going to fix them today.
Yeah.
But what I want to do with every autistic person is value them like a whole human.
Right.
And for me, that always starts by asking about their special interests.
Yeah. Because we are our special interests. They are a part of our soul.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is a person. This is not a profound.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not a like, what am I like? I don't want to ask about behaviors. I don't want to ask about needs. I want to ask about who is this person? Who is their soul?
Because we are people. We are autistic people with autistic needs.
I think there's permission when you say profound autism to just see them as not people. And when you say gifted, they're like extra important people.
Yeah. Yeah. And automatically assigning importance to a random person, a random stranger.
It's fucking weird.
It is. And it very much frustrates me because not only as a former gifted kid myself, but as a parent of a Gestalt language processor, it bothers me that there's so much judgment in the world all around. And I wish that people would just be open to seeing people as they are and understanding people from their own experiences instead of, deciding that productivity or something is the be all end all
measure of worth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that is probably a good place to leave it for this week, but I do want to do a shout out to a podcast. So we've got this network of neurodivergent podcasters. If you're listening and you have a podcast and you're neurodivergent, reach out to me. I can tell you about it. But we are just autistic podcasters supporting each other. And we do it because we think you might enjoy these shows if you enjoy ours. So if you enjoy the Autistic Culture Podcast, I think you might enjoy Meet My Autistic Brain. We have had Susan from Meet My Autistic Brain on the show before. And so I feel like when I hear Susan's voice, I know I am going to be in for a ride. Those episodes are very short. They're like 15 minutes and they have really cool topics like one on stimming or one on shutdowns or one on hyperfocus or one on hugs. I love her episode on hugs. And each episode is just like a treasure trove of information, but also information you can share with people who love you. Yeah. So, just search Meet My Autistic Brain on any podcast player. I love her. I love the show. You can listen to her episode with us from a few episodes back and check out her show if you haven't already. Meet My Autistic Brain. That's what I got.
So that's a good one. We will see you on Tuesday for another new culture episode and next Friday for another autistic advocacy episode. But
yeah, and if you haven't already, head over to our Substack. It's autisticculturepodcast.com. You could put your email address in and sign up for updates when new episodes come out. And also you could upgrade to a paid membership to get our book, or just be on our list to find out when it's available to the general public, which will be once we get 1,000 members for this group. So I think we're up to 315 or something now. So nice. 700 or so to go. Please join us. And as a thank you gift, you will get a copy of our new book, Adult Autism Home Assessment. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Autistic Culture Podcast. You can hear our show through any podcast player, but the best way to engage with the show is by going to autisticculturepodcast.com. When you go there for the first time, you might be confused, but once you pop in an email address into that login screen, it will all make sense.
Now, why would I give a stranger on the internet my email address?
By giving us an email address, they will get free access to transcripts as well as videos for each show that are released on the same day as our podcast episodes.
So our podcast is free everywhere if you go to autisticculturepodcast.com. They can trade us their email address for transcripts, videos, links to things we talk about on the show, and special invitations. All that for free? What do they get if they decide to give us some of their hard-earned money? Other than our deep appreciation, of course.
We know not everyone can afford to become paid supporters, but for those who can, that's what helps us pay our amazing producer and content manager. And to say thanks for helping us defray the cost of doing the show, we do have some exclusive perks like live Q&A calls with us. They get access to our secret book club podcast, my virtual writing circle, where you can process some of your autistic trauma in writing,
and a digital copy of our brand new book, Adult Autism Home Assessment, our definitive guide to accurate and affirming self-identification, as well as audiobook recordings.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to also tune in for our Autistic Culture episodes every Tuesday, where we celebrate autistic contributions to society, culture, and history.
This is the way.